Yo, what is up, GBA type people? I am Randy, and we are back with another coach interview as we lead up to the opening weekend of the 10th anniversary season of the Global Battle Association. Today, I am joined by the GrandMaster himself, D.Rey, coach of the San Diego Snugglers. Welcome on in, D.Rey. How are you doing today, man?
What's going on, guys? I'm glad to be here. It's surreal. It's a dream come true, honestly. I appreciate it. Thank you so much for the time.
Hey, man, thanks for taking some time to have a chat with us and the rest of the GBA fans. I'm looking forward to this short, but also hopefully it's insightful and an interesting interview so the fans can get to know one of the many new organizations we have joining us this season. So without further ado, let's go ahead and just get right into it, man. Let's get right into this. So right away, let's go ahead and just, if you can go ahead and introduce yourself to the rest of the GBA, your team, your assistant coach, and then kind of just an elevator pitch on your channel and what's been going on your channel for the past couple months since Scarlet and Violet, or even since Gen 7, since the GBA's been away. Yeah,
it's so I say it's a dream come true because I've been a fan of the GBA since as long as I can actually remember. And the fact that Jolt is now kind of taking the reins is also going to give a big ups for me. But to answer your question, who I am, so my name is GrandMaster D.Rey, for those who don't know. Hopefully you've seen me before. I'm actually the commissioner, owner of the Breejex Battle Royale, so the BBR Wi-Fi Draft League. So very excited here to kind of hop ship and be with the GBA for the time being. My assistant coach is none other than the legendary Kurpie, also known as Point Blank from way back in the day. My man is a boomer in the Wi-Fi Draft League, and so he's a very seasoned veteran. And together, him and I are quite a dynamic duo. So you guys have a lot to look forward to. And we are kind of gathered together by in vivid color. So he's the one that's kind of gathered the both of us. And we're just one big package. And part two of your question in regards to like what we have on our channel. I've been around for, I think, since the beginning of Generation 8. And I'd like to say made some waves in regards to like if people knew who I was. I had a podcast that kind of got me up and going. It's called the Grandmaster's Table, where I was very blessed enough to make some very strong connections with some incredible personalities in the community. It started off with people like my best friend OGalbina, and then it took off to on Twitter someday. People the threads of Twitter, however that works. I'm too old for this stuff. I ended up getting connected with my real good friend Patty Trills. And Patty ended up giving me a good word, and then it passed on from one person to the next. And little be known, I'm sitting down, hanging out with people like PokeMMD. I've made a relationship with people like Sierra Dawn, K Cray. One of my really good friends now, Kyle A. A lot of incredible names. Envy. It's just the list goes on and on. If you've heard of them on YouTube, I probably sat down with them and got to dive into their life, and I'm very blessed to have that opportunity. So if you guys have known me from that, but that's the main gist. And then I kind of trickled in the draft league, and I'm one of the old boomers, has been playing doubles and transitioned slowly into singles draft league, and it's been a fun journey ever since.
Oh, that's awesome, man. Yeah, I remember catching some of those podcasts, and even before I got a chance to get assigned to interview you, I had to go back and check out some of those podcasts and make sure I can live up to it, man. It was there's definitely some pressure, but no, man, that's definitely a different background than a lot of the other coaches have, and the fact that you were able to network and connect with those people. I don't even want to say the word network; it's not even the right word. It's just being able to connect with the people from different scenes of the community. It's really awesome to hear, and hopefully more of that goes on as the scene continues to grow online. So it's a great story here, man.
It's really cool to be, because that podcast was a long time ago, kind of put that thing to bed, just because it was becoming, the channel was kind of turning into a podcast channel. And as I fell more and more in love with Draft League, the channel wasn't doing well. Having the both of them together, the real only other option was to create another channel, just from how much traction it was gaining, which I'm very blessed for. But it wasn't really the direction I wanted the channel to go, so I ended up putting it to bed. It may come back, you never know. But it's cool to see how at that point it was who was big, quote unquote, like who everybody knew at the time, and then how the draft league scene looks now with so much new talent, so many people coming out the back door. Like since then, people like Mount have blown up on the scene. Shuckle King has arisen again, and so he's back on the scene. Addison has all of a sudden like comes in and out. All of a sudden, it's like the Michael Jordan of draft league. She comes back to the basketball. all of a sudden it's like she never left. So it's cool to have so much dynamic and so much a big community. My biggest goal with my channel, honestly, if I were to kind of sum everything up, was to bring everybody together and make sure that we understand that we're all one big community, and they're just people like you and I, and then we all have lives, individual fun stuff. So that's really cool.
Yeah, I could not have said it any better myself. That's awesome. Great message. Hopefully everyone keeps that in mind as we go forward. So you briefly mentioned that Vivid Color is going to be involved with y'all's team. Now, to the fans and even to some other coaches, they still don't know what these GM's role are within the team. So if you could give a quick explanation on what his role will be, whether it be with the content creation process or even with because there are some people out there that believe that he will be involved with the team building process. Some people think that might not be fair. I'm pretty sure he won't be. Do you want to clarify any of these messages on what he actually will be doing with you guys?
Listen, GBA type people, when we find out, we'll tell you. That's kind of how it is right now. As far as I understand, Vivid, we're blessed to have Vivid's presence, as well as I believe Pokemon is also in the league as well.
Yes,
working as a promoter. As far as the extent as to how it's been right now, so Vivid and I go way back. Vivid was also on the said GrandMaster Stable podcast, and we've held a very close relationship ever since. He's a beautiful family, and I guess something happened in the GBA. I'm not entirely sure how this kind of went about, but we weren't part of the main plans of the GBA, so we're actually very blessed to be here in the first place. We were able to catch wind as soon as we kind of got started, and we were able to be there from the beginning, but the full blueprint of the GBA didn't involve GrandMaster D.Rey or Kurpie. So Vivid came in, he was like, hey man, there's no one else I want other than you, and anyone else you could think of? I was like, Kurpie, of course. He's Kurpie's a nice relationship starts where when I took the keys to the BBR, he's the very first person I talked to. He's my right hand man. He's the one person in the community I can always rely on, and we have such an incredible chemistry that it was just the perfect fit. So he didn't want anyone else but us, and I'm very excited that we did that. As far as his role in us, I think that he's going to be creating content within our content, our battle content, just more of like fun, outgoing, just general analysis content of it. He will not be taking part of the team building process. It's just me and Kurpie. And in fact, I'm very excited to that aspect too, because Kurpie and I are so many solid ideas. And for those who know our dynamic, I always want to try fun out of the box stuff, and sometimes I just get in the head, and Kirby's like, shut up, dude, that's not gonna work. And Kirby has been around since Generation 7S point blank. He's an incredible battler. I have no problem taking the back seat whenever we see a matchup where he has played this competitor in the past, and we know he has a better psyche against this competitor because he knows that's a little advantage I think I'd have. Because we're one of the news. There's a lot of new people in the GBA, but there's also a lot of people that have been playing for longer than I've been around, and Kurt's seen them all. So I feel like we have an advantage in that aspect.
Oh, that's a great point. And real quick, I'm pretty sure you wouldn't want Josh to build with you anyways, because I think he's been out of the comp scene for a while. I don't think he'd be much. He's
got some juiced opinion.
Sorry, Josh. I had to do it. He's hey man, I got to meet him a couple times in IRL. We were both in the Houston area, so he's like great dude.
He's incredible.
So I had to throw a couple jabs, but yeah, no, it's. Staying on that topic though, with the assistant coach and how you and Kurpie seem to have a great bond and a great understanding of the game. I've been asking this with other interviews and how you feel about this whole assistant coach role that the GBA is having. I'm curious to know that going into these weeks, do you think it's going to be as 50-50 as a contribution between the two of you? Are you going to be the one taking the reins of the team build most of the weeks? So do you have any sort of game plan going into the season, or do you think that he'll be doing perhaps more in the team building process and you'll just be kind of piloting what he builds? Like how do you plan on handling that preparation throughout the season? I know some people might just end up winging it, so
No, actually there's a little bit of thought that actually got put into us even coming in. So at the time that we got asked, when Vivid came to us, Kurpie was actually taking a break. He was quote unquote mini tired, and we low key kicked him off the BBR roster because he does so much in the community. He works with Olivia Sama. He does the main editing for her stuff. He's done many things across the community. Like he's worked with JamVad. He does a lot of editing for a lot of people across the playing field, as well as his own stuff. And he loves playing Draft League, but he kind of burned himself out just a little bit, and he admittedly so. And then we're like, listen, dude, you're going to take a break for season 5. You're not playing. And so he's like, I agree. I don't want to play. And then so as I got asked, I was like, oh, this is perfect. He was actually starting to get some FOMO. He's like, listen, I want to play again. We're like, no, stop. No, break time. And so this is like an opportunity for him to play, but not play and not have the responsibility of being the main coach I was supposed to going to take over. But now that we're kind of transitioning on, he has actually come back into the BBR roster. Now he's in full swing. So now it's adjusted where I was going to take full reins, and it's more so of like, depending on being able to play obviously within the rules of the GBA, but really kind of do the two heads of the coin, right? Who do we think has the better matchup in regards to who has whose number? We've been around for quite some time in regards to who's still active, because a lot of the new GBA coaches were from quite some time in Generation 8. So do I have a better matchup? Have I beaten this competitor? Do I have a better matchup against them? Does Kurpie know how to play them? Is this one that's better for Kurpie, one for me? So almost like a 75-25 kind of thing, depending on how things goes. But he's very much so like the brains of the operation. I would come up with stuff, get bonked in the nose, it goes through him, and he ended up approving it. So I'm very excited to see how well we work together in actual playing, because him and I have a very similar play style. So it's going to be really exciting to see.
Awesome. Yeah, I think that's a great way to go about it. A lot of Pokemon players, when they say they retire or they take a break, they end up coming back way sooner than they expected. That's just a competitive Pokemon player.
It's an addiction. It's a low-key addiction.
It is, right? It happens to everyone. So I'm not even surprised to hear that story. To hear that that's what happened. I think that the assistant coach dynamic is going to be very interesting, because I feel like the assistant coach actually could potentially be under a lot of pressure this season, because really there's only going to be two scenarios that the assistant coach will ever be in. They're either going to be tasked with keeping the ship afloat and making sure you keep winning or staying in the race, or number two, you're going to have to get the team out of a hole. You're going to be struggling, and you have to get that dub. So I feel like when the assistant coaches do take over for particular weeks, there's going to be pressure for them to get the dub, I feel like. So I think that can be something that some assistant coaches will probably fold under. They might fall into that pressure, but I also think a lot of them are just, obviously the main goal is for them to have a chance to play and just sort of shake things up for even the fans to watch. So that's the general message for it, but that's just something that I always think about when it comes to like keeping how the standings will go and fluctuate throughout the season. So I'm interested to see how that plays out.
The one thing that real quick, Randy, is that like there was a running joke during the whole process as we're kind of intermingling with all the coaches, is that I don't know if you guys have been familiar, if you actually seen this lineup, not only who's the main coach roster and who's the assistant coach roster. If you haven't been inept, if you're a GBA longtime fan and you're slowly coming back to Draft League, or primarily if you have been watching Draft League as of recent, if you were to split us in half and have a league division where the main coaches play and then the assistant coaches play, the assistant coaches can run away and create like an elite roster. Like the assistant coaches, like you look at the lineup, like it could overtake any league skill wise and be like an incredible roster. And we had this joke of like mains versus assistants, and then be like, assistants will smoke them, and I wouldn't doubt it, honestly. Like if you look at about Addison as an assistant coach, which blows my mind. No shade to Goldoa, but the fact that Addison's such a fantastic competitor. Kurpie debatably is much better than I am. He actually, it's not even a debate, he's a much better player than I am. People like OGalbina, he's an incredibly seasoned veteran. There's people like Vepsis is an assistant coach. There's so many people that can run away and be their own head coach that overall, the GBA has so much fun content this season.
That is such a great point. I feel like we could just do D League right there. We could just have D League season 5 right there with the main coaches. That should be the plan. You know what, guys? D League is starting in 3 months. You guys be ready for it. Yeah. You heard it here first. I didn't spoil anything. Sorry, Joel. Sorry, guys. That's such a great point, though. Let's go ahead and jump into a little bit about, your ties to the GBA. You mentioned at the very beginning of this call that you've been a fan for a long time and that it's your dream come true. So I want to hear a little bit about how you got into draft. Like specifically, I know you mentioned you were into VGC, but like, what was the sort of a brief like draft history and what ultimately, was there any hesitation once you got the offer from Josh? Was there any hesitation about accepting and joining GBA?
From the second part of that question, I will say yes, there was some hesitation. The reason for it is because I have had a long past where, so I've had in the beginning of my Gen 8 runs, I actually did very, very well. I was in playoffs very much so often. I had the time to do so. As life progressed, I'm a father of 2 kids. And so being a dad first, sometimes Draft League, even though it's a hobby that I love, it doesn't have the time, and it gets put in the back burner. And it really showed in my content. So I said in Generation 9, slow down. I'm not going to be a league whore, and I'm just going to focus on who we are. Yeah. So that's what I wanted to do. But when the GBA came to me, I'm like, damn, I told Kurpie I can't not say yes. Right. One of my main bucket lists was, well, there's 3 leagues when I first started in Draft League that I said, I told my partner at the time that like, hey, I could really play in these 3 leagues and walk away in the sunset and say I did something. One of them was the APA, ended up being on the league council running the league, which was fantastic. The next one was the DBA, and here we are. And the third one is, I'm sure everybody knows, starts with the W. I can like walk into this, walk away and be completely content, no matter if I won or lost. And like I was very hesitant, but at the end of the day, it is the GBA. The GBA has a rich history of just Draft League. I'm very close to Steve. I love Steve the Absolute Death. Also was on the podcast. He's actually one of those people that really just got me into loving Draft League from the BGC doubles format. And it's cool to have Joel here. Joel doesn't know this. I never told Joel. So Joel's surprised when he edited. Oh, okay. My first experience with the community in general, I played in 2016 in the regional tournament. I believe it was in Oregon. I think it's that league. And so ended up getting hosted in and pulled into this community. There's an app out there called Amino. And I was in this Amino community where they were playing some like doubles and they were playing singles and we were playing this thing called Draft League. And this one guy, he's like, hey, listen, do you have a Discord? I was like, what the F is Discord? I went in a Discord and then I stumbled upon Twitter's, the TTM. Back then they used to run the summer tournaments. Right. So I fell into this TTM league and I got thrown into hundreds of people. I was like, I don't know what's going on. I'm just going to show up when they have me to play. I don't know what I'm doing, but I know how to do doubles. I drafted mons that were good back then in the doubles format, and I did okay. I ended up meeting this guy named Diet Tight. His name is Jason, and Diet Tight got me close to Panther. And then after that, it just completely took off. Panther just got me in the room with a bunch of incredible people, and then here I am today. So I actually owe a lot of my being here today to Jolt because he was running that tournament. And if I hadn't been in that server in the first place, I would have never met Jason. I would have never bet Panther. So if that tournament didn't happen, there would be no me. So that's really cool. So that's another reason why I felt like I owed myself to the GBA, because without them, I wouldn't be here in this position.
Oh, that's great. The butterfly effect, man. Oh, that's
yeah, it really is.
That is such a great story, man. I think, yeah, Joel has done a lot for the community, and he's still continuing to do that. After we thought he was gone, for a couple of years, he comes back in full force, and he quite literally revived the GBA with the help with others. Right. So I think that's a great message. Jolt deserves a lot of recognition for the work that he's done, as well as everyone else, Aster, and everyone else too. Sorry, everyone, even the coaches involved too, and the fans, of course. That's a great message to have to put forth. So. Yeah, man, great story, great origin story, and so with that said, you started uploading. You said Generation 8, right? So you haven't been playing for too long compared to a lot of the old heads, right? So just sort of a full circle question to ask, because the GBA, this is the 10th anniversary season, 10 years of Draft League. So my question to you is, what is your all-time favorite Draft League moment? It doesn't even have to be your own. It can be somebody's video you watched. It can be someone's replay. It can be a Discord call that you were watching someone's championship match. It could be some sort of team building crazy call that you had. It could be anything. So what is your all-time favorite Draft League moment?
That's a tough question, man. I am if I'm gonna do something, I'm gonna do it well. Like, I almost taught myself the game, and then once I met my friends that I guess you guys now know in the community as the Goons, OGalbina kind of under his wing and taught me a lot. And his first thing, he's like, you want to learn Draft League? You watch Mega Mogwai. And so, as like everyone else should, I watched Mega Mogwai's content. Since then, he's kind of privated all of his stuff, unfortunately. But he was a big testament to how I am now. But I literally studied this man. I wrote everything that he did, everything that he said, and a lot of his antics and play style I wanted to take for myself. So for him, that's my biggest like idea of draft league is Mega Mogwai. I would love to meet Miguel. He looks like and seems like an amazing human. But like I think if I were to like off the top, like off the dome, because you kind of sprung this on me, this is tough. And after all I've seen, I would say one of my leagues as the bucket list. I'm fortunate to be friends with the people that run it, but it's just the first thing that comes to mind. Kyle's gonna love this. I'm gonna fluff his feathers a little bit. I think that there was no bigger splash in my time in the space as when Kyle won the WBE. And this is the championship game against Steve, of all people. I believe that this was the very first season of Generation 8 that the WBE came on, back when we didn't know what Dynamax was, and we're like, fuck it, it's the mechanic, everyone gets a Dynamax, and we realized it was broken. So like, it ended up being where the underdog, Kyle, he's gonna love me saying that, ended up being like the last seed and somehow beats Joey, and I think he beats Envy also, if I remember right. He like beats these like juggernauts to get to the final, and Steve does the same exact thing. So everyone's like rooting for him. So like as a fan's perspective, it's really cool to watch. And the way that it went down, and the creativity he brought with his Halucha. For those who haven't seen that matchup, make sure you guys please go watch that. It should be still live on Kyle's channel. He loves that. And the way that it went down, just kind of spoiler for you a little bit, that was before, back when Home was released in Generation 8. Those moves that came through the Home update were not allowed because as the league progressed, they started coming on. So for example, Steve had access to a Vaporeon, I believe, that didn't have Roar when he drafted it, but then he got Roar when the Home update happened and he used it. And therefore, it ultimately ended up him winning the game. But it ended up to where like Kyle should have won that game if that move wasn't there. So it made this whole aspect of all this dramatic effect that Kyle basically almost ran away with it. But it ultimately ended up where he became the champion because of this rule break. But the game itself was incredible. If you guys don't watch any other game, I highly recommend to watch that one, because even if you take away the Roar, it was just such a great matchup. Even on both sides, both of them were immense so much to them. It's what draft league is about. It's like the guys that sweat it out feel like they're in this big pond of sharks and they end up beating them all, and the two of them go head to head. It's like David versus David. And right. One of the biggest memories that I have that comes off the top of my head.
Oh, that's awesome. Honestly, it's been so long, I don't even remember that. But now that you mentioned like the rule break, I remember that part specifically about the illegal move. But I feel like Kyle A is like the only person that can never lose a game. He's never lost. Yet he's still considered an underdog. He's like the only person that can pull that off. But that's a great story. I know Kyle's had an impact on a lot of people. I love Kyle. The dude's great. He's always done a lot for me too. So I'm with you there with the recognition there. He's a GOAT. Hopefully he's still doing his thing, whatever it is he's doing now. But
he's with us in the BBR. He's active and he's doing really well. I'm not gonna spoil his record, but the BBR has rich history. Luckily enough, we've had, if you think of a big creator, he's been on the BBR. All of them. Every single one that has ever played Draft League, they have all played in the BBR. Luckily enough, Kyle's there with us now. He's doing his thing. So Kyle is still alive, guys.
Okay, great.
Go head over there to the BBR. He's up and ready to go. He's doing really good things. And if you ever want to see someone pop off in Draft League, he's also one to watch. Everyone else in the BBR.
Oh, that's great. I'll have to go in there and save that playlist for later. See what's about that. But yeah, I think that's all the time we got for today. I do want to say though, man, this has been a great talk, great stories. I do want to say, I haven't really committed myself to rooting for a specific team just yet, but I do want to say, I think I'm personally going to be rooting for the San Diego Snugglers. Between Josh, yourself, Kurpie, and the work that he's done, I think I'm a fan. And if anyone else who's undecided in the GBA server, and if you're undecided still, go ahead and grab yourself a San Diego Snuggler roll if you feel like you can relate to the talk we had today, and if you're a fan of what's going to be going forward. So yeah, that's all the time we got today. Thanks for joining me, D.Rey. It's been great. It's been a pleasure. Thanks for your time. And again, GBA fans, if you have any further questions for D.Rey or even Kurpie or even In Vivid Color and what he's going to be doing, go ahead and drop them in the comments, leave a like, and we will see you guys opening weekend, 10th anniversary. We'll see you for the draft as well. We'll see you then. Take it easy.
Peace, guys.